Hi guys, so this week we are sort of practicing our ruler skills and how to hold a ruler, how to use it to draw straight lines, and then we're going to be making some art using tape following along the straight lines that we've made. So this will be a pretty quick demo. The first thing that I'm going to show you is how to hold a ruler correctly so that you get a really straight line that doesn't move. So for this project, you can kind of have your lines facing whatever direction you want. You want them to be crisscrossing across each other. So I'm going to do some vertical lines, I'm going to do some horizontal lines, and I'm going to do lots of diagonal lines. The first thing that you want to make sure is that wherever you're reaching with your ruler, the ruler is going to go all the way across the paper where you've placed it. So for example, if I wanted a line from this corner to this corner, well, you can see that my ruler doesn't reach. So I would have to move my ruler over to finish out my line, which can be really tricky. So if you are just working on practicing your ruler skills, I would suggest you picking spots where the ruler reaches all the way across your paper, like here, for example. So I could go edge to edge right there. So now I'm going to take my left hand, which I write with my right hand, so you'll want to use the hand that you're not writing with. I'm going to hold it in the middle of the ruler, and I'm holding it really hard so that it doesn't wiggle as I drag my pencil across the edge. And the sharper your pencil is, the more precise of a line you will get. So I'm going to finish doing some of these pencil lines all across my paper. You can see I'm still holding my ruler in the middle really hard. I'm going to do 2 more lines, one right there, and I think one up here. And I am running my pencil right along the edge of that ruler. So it's helping me draw those nice straight lines. Awesome. So now I have some tape. Now, I would not suggest you using like the clear Scotch tape for this project. That's not going to work. You will need some sort of painter's tape. So it can either be this blue painter's tape or white. It doesn't really matter what the color is, but it can't be like regular tape that you would use to wrap a present. It has to be this painter's tape. So I have some of this. I'm going to measure along the lines that I created, and I'm just going to tear off pieces that are the same length as the lines I want to create. And then I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to tape right over across those lines that I made. And I'm going to do that for all my lines. So give me just a second. All right, so now I'm all taped up. You can see that I kind of taped my paper to the table with my pieces of tape, which you can do too, but since we will be painting on top, be sure that you're either working on a surface that you can clean off easily. Remember that we're in charge of our own messes, or that you lay something down underneath like a newspaper or an old grocery bag or something to protect the surface that you're working on. Now, if you happen to have paint at home, I go in and paint into all of these spots that are, all of these shapes really, that our lines created. If you don't have paint at home, you can also use like crayons, colored pencils, markers, really anything you want. But you can see if you're using tape, and really even if you're coloring, you can just go right over those tape lines. And then when we peel up the tape, it's going to leave these nice white lines in between our shapes for us. So it's kind of masking off these areas that we don't want this color to be in and keeping it all in this one spot. Now, when I am ready to peel off the tape, I need to make sure that my paint is dry. You don't want to be pulling it off while your paint is wet. It will leave kind of like a fuzzy line behind instead of a really straight line. And also you want to be sure that when you're pulling the tape off, which I'm going to do now, just for the sake of showing you my lines, even though it's wet, you can see I'm holding the paper down as I'm pulling this tape, and I'm being really gentle pulling the tape away so I don't rip my paper. And you know what? If it does rip your paper like it's doing to me right here, it's okay. You can go in and either paint over that or fix that with something later. Something that helps the tape not stick to the paper is if you take off a piece of tape first, and then you tape it on the inside of your arm or on your leg or something somewhere, and you press it on your skin for a little bit, and then you take it off and put it on your paper. It's kind of gross, but it picks up a little bit of our skin cells and helps our tape not be so sticky so that it comes off easier. So that's a tip I would have for you if you want to avoid tearing your paper like I just did. But of course, remember, if you make an oops and tear your paper, we can always turn it into something else. We can cover it up with paint. You can do all kinds of things to fix an oops in art. So once you have removed your tape and you have all of these sections of color, we would recommend going back in with a marker or a colored pencil or something sharp and fine and drawing some patterns inside of these areas of color. You can see how clean that tape line is. Isn't that satisfying? So I would go back into all of my sections and try to do like a different pattern for each one of these colored sections on top of my paint to help my art be a little bit more interesting. Remember, a pattern is anything that repeats itself over and over. So if you have if you play baseball, you could turn a bunch of baseballs into a pattern and really make this artwork represent yourself. So I hope you guys have so much fun using tape and learning and practicing how to use rulers to draw straight lines this week. We'll see you next time. Bye.